Hello, friends. Welcome to Level Up with Bailey Neal. I am your host. There is nowhere I would rather be than right here, right now, with you. This podcast is all about leveling up in all aspects of our lives. Thank you for being here. I am so grateful. I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Together, we are leveling up. You ready? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Level Up with Bailey Neal. Happy January. Happy 2026. My heart is extra grateful to be here with all of you today because I have a really special guest that I'm going to share with all of you. So many of you guys know my story. If you're brand new here, welcome. But a lot of you have been part of the Level Up family for a bit. And when it comes to family, that's my everything. So I am a mom of 4 children, and they are my why, and they are my world. So if you guys have heard the episodes, I have interviewed my daughter, Brooke, who's actually one of my vice presidents in my business. And we talked about all things from her being 6 years old and watching me build this business to building it of her own and faith. I've interviewed my son, Tyler Neal, and we talked about everything, kind of lessons through his Ironman. And now I'm going to be interviewing one of my twins, and you guys are going to hear from Bailey Neal. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of background of Bailey, but a lot of you guys have heard my trainings, you've heard my stories. So this is the child of mine that it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago when I asked her to make a dream board. And we loved making dream boards. And she put 3 things on her dream board. It was United Kingdom, Dubai, and Australia. And you guys know the story if you've listened to that episode. All of those things actually were created that year. And that year, she went with me to the United Kingdom, to Dubai, and to Australia. Bailey was 1.5 when I started my journey as an entrepreneur. My children were a big part of my why. I was actually a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. I loved being home with my kids, but I was praying for more time, more finances, more flexibility, more options, just really leading a yes life. And so when I said yes to embarking on a new business, Bailey, who is one of my youngest, was 1.5. And today she's 21 years old. She is a junior at the University of Tampa. I put in my notes that she had a 4.0 average. She corrected me and she's like, Mom, it's like a 3.9. You have to be very factual. I really did think it was a 4.0. She also, in addition to going to college full-time in Florida, has a full-time job. She got an internship last summer and they loved her so much. They kept her on full time. And you guys, I really have to give her kudos because not only does she go to school and excel at grades, but she goes to school in a city that basically looks like a resort. So it's very, very tempting to not study and not put in the effort, but she does. And you guys know that when I started my business, a huge why for me was to be able to pay for my children's college tuition. And every time I didn't feel like picking up the phone or getting in the car or working through the hard, I looked at a sign of what college tuition would cost. And I was like, okay, I need to remove emotions and get to work. So you guys know that I pay for her college tuition and her rent, but she works for her spending money. So she has and Bailey she's so generous. She likes to spend money. So, and I love that. And she's super grateful. She is the youngest of my 4 children, but she has oldest child tendencies. And so for all of you oldest children out there, you know what I'm talking about. Like, all of my children are amazing, but she's like an old soul, always looking to help. I was sick last week. What could I do? What could I get you? Always takes care of everyone. She's very deep. She's very sensitive. I could not be more proud of who she is. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different things today. And one of the things we're going to talk about is her faith journey, because I am so impressed with how she lives her life. At college, she goes to church every single Sunday. While she's away at college, she's super involved in her church. And so today we're just going to talk everything involving faith, her journey, and really why it's important through so many aspects of her life. I'm going to turn this over to Bailey, and I'm going to see if she wants to share something before I ask her some questions. But one of the things that I know that you guys are going to want to know is Bailey was 1.5 when I started my business. Kind of, I'd love to know like what it was looking at this through her eyes. And I ask this questions because there's a lot of incredible women out there, men too, but women, mamas tend to have more mom guilt. And a lot of you have big goals, you have big aspirations, and sometimes we make our why, which is our children, our excuse. So we come in with big goals and then it's like, oh, I can't go and do this. I can't get on that meeting. I can't do this. And so this is another one of my children who has lived this for 20 years and kind of how it's shown up in your life.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. As she said, of course, my name is Bailey. I'm her youngest child. And before we just get to the mom guilt, this has been a long time coming. I wish you guys could see the scene that just happened. Her microphone broke. Tina was barking. Everything that possibly could go wrong. But I'm so happy to be here and to share with you guys. And I hope that you get at least something from this. But going to the mom guilt, of course, I was 1.5 when she started building. So I really had no idea. I don't remember the early parts of her business. But I hear her trainings all the time and she talks about the sacrifices that she put in. And if you're a mom building this business, your children like me might not remember the early sacrifices that are made because I certainly don't. But growing up, I can see the person that my mom is and her work ethic, and that leaves such a lasting impact on me more than the effects of the sacrifices that she had left. But if you're thinking about building this, network marketing, your children will not remember the sacrifices, and it's really so worth it because I have a mom who's so inspiring and hardworking, and that's really what I see today and what it instills something in me.
And one of the things that I love, guys, is that she's at the University of Tampa and she could say at any given moment, Mom, come visit. And I could say yes and get on a plane. Not only do I have the time, but let's be honest, those things cost money. And I want to be with her as often as humanly possible. Okay, Bailey, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. We're going to have some fun. So you are, which I mentioned, the youngest of 4, but you often act like the oldest. Like you are an old soul, you're deep, you're sensitive, you're helpful. Like where do you think that sense of responsibility comes from? Because you definitely have it.
Well, I love that you think that. I will say I have 3 very mature siblings, and I can totally be a little kid at some points.
Oh,
Totally.
definitely.
I everybody knows I can act like a little kid, but I really think it just comes from, I mean, we're all so mature, we're all so close. And I've seen how you've raised us and you have us have this responsibility and this drive that we want to be responsible. We want to be able to create things for ourselves. And it just doesn't have us just sitting back and really doing nothing.
Yeah, I am blessed. So when I say she has oldest child tendencies, it's not a discount to any of the others because they are. They're so helpful. They're young adults. People say you have 18 summers with your kids. You have way more than 18 summers with your kids. Like my greatest joy is when all of my kids are just around. So Bailey, you juggle, I'm saying a 4.0.
A 3.86.
3.86, a full-time job, and like really a full life. What drives you to operate at such a high level? And you guys know my story. My first semester in college, I got a 1.7. I thought my father was going to shave my eyebrows and mail me to a foreign land. And so I am so grateful my children didn't duplicate that. So what do you think drives you to operate at such a high level?
In school, I have to admit, I would say knowing that you're paying for my tuition, it's so easy for me. I have palm trees on campus. I have a nice pool right outside. And it's safe to say I have skipped a few classes in my college career. But knowing that you guys are paying for my college tuition and my rent, it makes me want to go to class, want to do good because I know how much things cost, and it honestly makes me sick to think about how expensive college is. So just going, getting good grades to be able to do that for you guys, I feel like it's the least that I can do. And if I'm going, I might as well do good in school. It's like I have to go to class anyways. But work and living a full life, it's just, I have to remember that whenever I get stressed, it's all how lucky am I to be able to go to school and have this job and to be able to live a full life and go to the beach whenever I want, hang out with my friends. It's all just answered prayers coming together. And whenever I get stressed or overwhelmed and I think about how much I have to do, it's just, I'm living in answered prayers and it's such a blessing. And I'm so lucky to be able to do all these things.
Okay, you guys, we didn't talk about the questions or the answers. And I just want to tell you what I love about what I just heard. Okay, not just she's my child, but what I love. So many people have told me over the years, you pay for your kids' college. You're better off having them pay for their college because then they'll know what it really costs and they're not going to mess up or take it for granted. So you see, once the character and the work ethic is there, that's really, really incredible. I couldn't love this child more. So I want to switch for a little bit, and I want to talk about faith. I want to talk about Jesus. I want to talk about how that's the foundation for Bailey's life. I'd love to think Scott and I are really great parents and a really great influence in her life. She's also surrounded by her siblings that are amazing, but everything we have is because of Jesus. And so I'd really love to start, Bailey, with your journey, when it really began. And you guys know, if you've listened to my Most Vulnerable podcast and my journey, my children are a huge inspiration to me when it comes to my journey to Jesus, because we learn from each other. This is not something that Bailey was instilled with at birth. I grew up believing in God. I grew up going to church on holidays. I said my prayers. I knew all of my prayers. So God was the foundation of my life, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. I didn't actively practice it in my daily life. I didn't deal with stress. I also didn't give glory to God with a lot of successes. I gave glory to myself. I gave glory to my team. And I didn't really realize the power of this for me. It's probably going back now 6 or 7 years, and my children have been a gigantic part of that. So I'm so grateful. So Bailey, I'd love for you to really talk about, because they had to find a lot of this kind of, I don't want to say on their own, but we did it together, where your journey began.
Right. And I wouldn't even say it's on our own, because watching you guys has been so inspiring, but faith is something that's so personal, and having that personal relationship. So in order to really understand, I'm going to start the story really early. So we were raised in the Catholic Church, but as she said, we were basically holiday heroes. So you saw us
Never heard that before.
You saw us on Christmas, you saw us on Easter. It was like, hey, like, how you doing? We acted like we were there all the time. Maybe some Sundays were sprinkled in between. We were put in CCD. I don't know how old I was, maybe 4th, 5th grade, I would say.
Yeah.
Around that time. And I think CCD was on Monday nights. On Sunday nights, I was already setting myself up to be sick for the next day. I was crying. I was way too old to be upset about going to CCD, but I caused a fuss, but we went anyways. One of my CCD teachers actually thought my name was Maggie for the whole semester. I don't know how that happened. But anyways, I've always believed in God, but it wasn't until we started consistently going to a church in Florida around my high school years that I even heard the name of Jesus. Maybe I heard it before, but I wasn't even willing to listen, and my heart wasn't open. My ears were not open to even hear really what it was that they were talking about. And at this time, Brooke was growing in her faith, and it was really awesome and inspiring to see. But again, I was sat back and not really having a big part in it yet. Nothing happened to me that changed me at this point. It wasn't until my freshman year of college that my faith became my own faith, and it wasn't just the one of my parents or the one of my sister, or just going to church and really hearing the things, but not putting anything into practice. So my freshman year of college, I go to the University of Tampa, so I was thousands of miles away. I was by myself. I was very of the world, and I just did not know Jesus yet. I was going out. I was trying to find my satisfaction in drinking, partying, doing all these things. Thank goodness I wasn't boy crazy at the time, because that could have been a scene. But I started going to a church in Florida, and it just, they spoke about Jesus right away, the gospel. And it was just, I feel like my life was just totally changed once I was finally open to this idea, because I was trying to find satisfaction elsewhere. And so quick, I realized that this world will not satisfy, and that I need something else, because I was anxious. All the things were going on while I was at school. I needed something else and something bigger. And I went to this church. I will say I have an awesome roommate who she talked about Jesus. She has a great relationship. She was a great impact on me. But it was just until I got to the point where I felt like I needed to have my own personal relationship that it just changed my life.
I love that. And you guys, I believe God leads us. Jesus leads us to him. So when Bailey mentioned the church in Florida, you guys know that I had a house for about 3 years in Palm Beach. And when I bought that house, the first thing I said is, I want to find a church. And we found an amazing church, Christ Fellowship, there that I felt at home. I absolutely loved it. And that's when we started to really go. And it's like that we had that house for 3 years. We ended up selling it. It was a great time to sell. But I feel like that sprinkle was so profound. And then when Bailey went to college, her roommate, Sarah, who's just a doll. Now, I believe they were destined to be roommates for a variety of reasons. I've never found two people that were like so similar and meant to be together, and they have this incredible friendship. But again, that was Jesus like leading her to him, because it could have been anybody that she was rooming with. And she was rooming with somebody that was so steadfast in her faith, and was just one more addition to help Bailey grow hers. So one of the things that I'd love to talk about is having a relationship with Jesus, because I had heard that before I had one, and I didn't really understand what that meant. I was like, I pray, but I would pray for things like, thank you, Lord, for my health, and thank you for my family, and thank you for my children, and thank you for my business. So it was always like gratitude, but so often, or it was, dear God, I'm not feeling well. Can you help me with this? It was either a gratitude or a request. That's what my prayers look like, and kind of going through the motion. And then I realized, wow, a relationship, like I actually would talk and then just like really be quiet and get the answers. So Bailey, and I know a lot of people have this question, but what does having a relationship with Jesus actually really mean to you?
Right. And like you said, it is so easy to have it be a transactional thing. Like, I need this to happen, or I want this to happen. Like, just asking him and saying, like, to bring things to me. It's so easy to make that a transactional relationship, assuming that he owes me anything, which he does not. But it really all comes down to being an actual relationship rather than just looking for something from him, having a relationship. And that comes down to knowing him. And in order to know him, you need to know the word, and you need to know exactly who he is, and that he's love, and that he brings life. And my goal in life is I just want to be a reflection of the love of Christ. I want other people to know that I know Jesus and that I love Jesus. And I just hope that this is able to shine through me. But if I don't know him and I don't know who he is, that's impossible to do that. It's impossible to be a reflection of the love of Christ if I don't know what that looks like. So you really need to build that relationship, and just to get in the word so that you can actually know him, and then you can reflect this off of you.
Wow. You guys, she's 21 and she's such an inspiration to me. So here's a question, because we're living in a world today. I am so grateful as a parent that my children are so grounded with character, morals, faith in a world today that can be a little bit scary. The social media world can be scary, whether it's bullying, whether it's feeling like you need to fit in, whether it's feeling like you need to go on there with hardly any clothes on. I'm not here to judge, but I'm so grateful that, because I like to think parenting too, because that account would be taken down, but because of her self-respect, love, and relationship with Jesus, she makes really good choices. So why do you feel, Bailey, faith is so important to you as a young adult in today's world?
And going off of what you said first, I do like to think I make good choices for the most part, but I don't want to come on here acting like I am a perfect Christian by any means. We all fall short, and we fall short every day. But going back to society today, I mean, it is so hard. You especially see it on a college campus, comparison, social media. I go to Tampa, all the girls, not to judge them at all or say anything about them, but there's not a lot of clothing going on. Everybody's so in shape. If I wanted to compare myself, I could literally just look to the person next to me and be like, I want to look like them. I want to do whatever that they do. And it's so dangerous to be in a position like that. I was reading an article the other day about the rates of anxiety and depression today, and how they're just skyrocketing, and they're higher than they've ever been by far. And this is because, well, not only because of this, but comparison's real. Social media is taking over. Screen times are like 8 hours per day. It's insane. And people believe that there is truly no escape to any of their problems. So that results in the high levels of anxiety and depression that are so sad to see. But all that to say, the world needs Jesus now more than ever, because spiritual warfare is real. The world will promise you so many things that will never satisfy. And the world needs Jesus now more than ever after all these things are taking over.
I love her, you guys. So Bailey, how does your faith influence decisions you make when no one is watching? Because that's that's a character thing too, right? And we grow our character through our faith. And it's really tempting to make decisions that do not serve us and do not honor God.
Right. I am a very strong believer that the most important part of your faith and your journey is built in private. So going to church is great. Building these relationships is awesome. Having these public declarations of your faith is great. But this relationship is truly built in private. When you're in your room, you're praying. I know scripture says this a lot. Get yourself by yourself, lock yourself in. Whatever you need to do, get alone and pray. And this will make the biggest difference when nobody else is watching, because that's where it's intimate and you could truly be honest and you could fall at the feet of Jesus and you can just lay everything down. And of course, there's no discount to the importance of godly friendships, getting into community, going to church. But this relationship is built in private, and that allows you to then go out in public and share it with everybody else.
Let's talk about school and work a little bit, because there's a lot of young adults that are in your exact situation in life. And so kind of like a few questions combined. How does your faith impact the way you show up with high academic standards? How does it influence your work ethic? And how do you stay so disciplined and grounded when work and school could totally be overwhelming?
All right, we'll go one at a time. So faith impacting the way my academic standards, of course, I want to be great at things and do everything faithfully. But again, this really comes down to how expensive college is and how it makes me so sick. And I'm so fortunate and grateful that my parents are paying for my education. So the least I can do is show up with high academic standards and want to be the best that I can for them, because that would just be an crazy disservice to them. And then faith influencing my work ethic at my job. It absolutely does. As she said, I'm an intern at a credit union. And when I'm at school, I'm in between part-time and full-time hours with this job. And I'm also balancing 5 hard classes this semester. I remember a few months ago, a moment popped into my mind. I was at some event at my church in Florida at night. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was talking to one of my friends about my internship. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, exactly what the context was. But I remember her citing Luke 16:10 to me, which reads, "Whoever is faithful with very little will also be faithful with very much." And I think this applies to every situation, whether it's school, whether it's my internship. If I'm faithful here when nobody's watching, doing the work that I'm supposed to do and helping others, then God will trust me and I can be faithful with the bigger things in the future. So that really stuck with me, and I don't think I'll ever forget. I forgot the exact conversation, but that verse that she said to me will stick with me forever. And then lastly, she threw a bunch of questions at me. How do I stay disciplined and grounded when things get overwhelming? Being too busy is overwhelming at points, but also not being busy is overwhelming, because if I don't have a job, I'm overwhelmed. Then I need a job. I'm stressed that I need a job. If I'm not in school, I don't think I'm doing anything. I might be bored. So either thing is overwhelming. So we really need to choose what we focus on. Before I got my internship, I know it's a lot about my internship, but I was praying for months for the right one to come up. It's hard these days getting a job and getting an internship. And as the timeline got tighter, I was honestly just praying for any internship, because my mom, we already signed my lease and she was paying my rent for the summer, whether I had a job or not. So I wanted to obviously have a job so that I can live in Tampa. And I think about 2 weeks before the summer ended, which was when I was going to stay there, I ended up getting the perfect internship with the perfect team at the very end of the semester. And this was a huge answered prayer, because I was praying for the last months. And at the last second, this perfect job came up, and I still have it today. But if I ever get overwhelmed with having to balance school and work, I just have to remind myself that I'm living in answered prayers and that I'm so blessed to be able to get an education and to have a job, and that I even get to stress about balancing all these things, because I'm just so lucky that I get the opportunity to do them.
2026 is the year you launch your business, the year you transform into an entrepreneur, founder, boss. One powerful move puts the future firmly in your hands. Starting a business with Shopify. Maybe you've got an idea you can't shake, a craft everyone tells you to sell, a store you've already designed in your head. With Shopify, 2026 is when you finally make it happen. Shopify gives you everything you need to sell online and in person. Millions of entrepreneurs have already made this leap, from household names to first-time business owners just getting started. Shopify gives you all the tools to easily build your dream store. Choose from hundreds of beautiful templates that you can customize to match your brand. Marketing is built in too. Create email and social campaigns that reach customers wherever they scroll. As you grow, Shopify grows with you. Handle more orders, expand to new markets, and do it all from the same dashboard. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/level up. Go to shopify.com/level up. That's shopify.com/level up. Hear your first this new year with Shopify by your side. Friends, I just need to take those answers and apply a few things that you could apply to business because a lot of you guys are entrepreneurs. So this is some things that I heard. When we're grateful for little, that's how we get rewarded with much. And I'm paraphrasing there, okay? It's same thing with our business, with our finances. It's about being grateful for what we have, stewarding what we have really well, and that is how things really grow and multiply. That's like absolutely incredible. And one of the things that we talk about when it comes to business too is instead of I have to build my business, I get to build my business. And instead of I have to do this, I get to. It's such a privilege to have a business. It's such a privilege to get to serve other people. So when we switch that mindset, it's really, really powerful. So let's switch a little bit. Let's talk about stress and pressure. We're living in a world today, just like Bailey mentioned, with so much anxiety, so much depression. And when it comes to one of the things that I know when I pray is that when I'm feeling any stress and anxiety, I'm like, Jesus, I am laying this at your feet. It is at your feet. What is your will for this situation? There are so many times that I used to, because I have such a strong mindset, I would be like, okay, this is the answer. And I would try to get in my head how I could create that answer, whether it's relationships, friendships, business. Now I'm literally like, it is at your feet. And it actually like washes away the stress and anxiety. So when we talk about stress and pressure, what does it look like for you, Bailey, to lean on God instead of just relying on yourself? And it's kind of tied into, having so much on your plate and managing stress and feeling just stretched too thin.
Right. Well, this reminds me of Proverbs 3:5-6. I am not going to act like I know it exactly from heart, but trust in your heart or trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him and he will make your path straight. And that is just so reassuring because if we just trust in him and we don't rely on ourselves, we rely on him and we just submit to him, he will make our path straight and he will guide exactly where our feet are going. And this is just so reassuring. I know exactly what it's like to rely on myself. Like my mom said, of course, we've experienced it in different ways, but I did this throughout high school when I was playing sports. I was trying to balance a social life. School, I just relied purely on myself in the first few months of college. And all that does is just lead to heightened stress and anxiety, and you feel burnt out. But if you truly just lay it all at his feet, like she was saying, having a good prayer life is so important and just talking. And then these don't have to be prayers that are so eloquent or they sound so perfect. You literally just have to talk to him in a way. Now, don't get me wrong, having reverence and adoration is so important. It's not like, hey, bro, like whatever. But my mom is laughing. But it's just so comforting knowing that we could talk to him and that he hears all of our prayers. He might not answer them exactly how we want, but it's just so comforting knowing that he is the author and he is the one who's going to guide my steps rather than having to trust in myself and my own plans, which have not gotten me very far in the past.
I love this. So you guys, I am loving this episode so much. I pray you're loving it as much as well. So one of the things I want to talk about now is friendships and relationships. We talk about this all the time. There's this thing called the law of association. So we're talking about faith, but we're also seeing how it ties into business. So there's this thing called the law of association. It's fact. It's not, so you become a sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And so when you have faith, when you have morals, when you have things that are going to guide your compass for your character, it shapes the friendships that you choose and how you show up in your friendship. So Bailey, if you we touch on friendships a little bit, how has your faith shaped the friend? Because we know that not everybody's a good influence, okay? It's just the reality of the situation. So how has your faith shaped the friendships? Because you guys, I'm not at college with her. I can't tell her who she hangs out with. When my kids were young, I had that ability. the play dates where I approved them. I knew who was good and I know who was not going to be a great influence. And I had complete control over who my children hung out with. But then as your children get older, what I do is I just pray to God that my children make good choices, that they were brought up with the right morals, the right character, and the foundation to go out and make those choices when I can no longer make them for them. So how has your faith shaped the friendships you choose and the way you show up in friendships and just treat people overall?
Right. Well, you used to be able to kind of dictate who I hung out with, but I'm very lucky to say that my friends today, I would be very comfortable if you were to hang out with them. So that
Yes.
just says something about them. I would still invite her to hang out with us if
You
she
do?
wanted to. Right. If she want, we're like best friends.
We're
We
best
laugh, right.
friends.
We laugh all the time. But I love every single one of my friends and family. And of course, the greatest commandment is to love God and to love others. So friends that I haven't seen in years, or maybe that I used to be best friends with, I still love them and I would love to catch up with them, even if we're at very different stages of life. But with that being said, if we are at very different stages of life and we have different values, different morals, different things that we like to do, it is also very okay for me to love them from afar. My circle is very small, and that's because the people that we surround ourselves with are what we'll end up like. In Proverbs, it says something about if you hang out with fools, you'll become foolish. But if you're, I'm not going to act like, again, I know the exact scripture, but if you hang around fools, you'll become more like them. And if you hang around the wise, you'll become wiser, basically, is the paraphrase version of that. So catching up with friends, I would love to do if we're not on the same path. But again, my circle is extremely small for a very specific reason. I just really want to value these godly friendships that lead me in the right direction because I know hanging around them, I will eventually become more like them if I want to or not. So I just would like to surround myself with the right people.
I love this, you guys. As a mom, can you imagine how I'm feeling even listening to the answers to these questions? I'm like, amen. So Bailey is one of those children that even before her walk with Jesus, she's just always loved to serve other people. She goes to church every Sunday, but she does more than goes to church. She serves, she gives back. So how does your faith influence the way you serve others? You're always looking out for other people. So serving others is just an extension of your faith. So just really talk about that for a minute.
Right. Well, I think my love language is acts of service, which
Absolutely.
there is 100% a difference in how I carry that out today and how I carried that out years ago. So going back, I would say freshman year of college, it was probably the worst for me. But I was trying to serve people to the point where it was not serving them for the right reasons or the right heart posture. It was an act of people pleasing. And I just wanted to please other people and I wanted to do all these things. I don't know if it was because I wanted validation from them or I don't know what it was, but I would just do things and then I would be so burnt out because I was trying so hard to please other people instead of serving out of the right heart posture. And it wasn't until a lot of prayer, because I would say this is what I struggled with most. But it took me, I would say, probably 2 years to get my heart in the right place where I genuinely want to serve for the right reasons, I feel, rather than just looking for somebody to say thank you or like, Bailey, you're so awesome, because that's so not what it's about. But now I truly just want to serve people because one, I think it's still my love language, but two, I just want to help out in any way I can. And now I believe that it's truly from the right place and not out of a place of people pleasing.
All right, you guys, I'm going to have two questions left for Bailey. One, I think is really important. So, Bailey, what are some advice for other young adults? So maybe someone your age who feels curious about Jesus but doesn't know where to start. Maybe some practical first steps that they could really say, you know what, I'm ready to take that first step. This podcast was, and friends, when you share this podcast, if this is something that you know can change somebody's life, please share this with them because our job is to not only build a relationship with Jesus, but to live more like Jesus and bring other people to Jesus. Like that's our role. So if this podcast can in some way serve and make a difference, please share this episode. So Bailey, what advice would you give to other, not just, I would say young adults because that's who you are, but could it be people in general? I could be listening to this at 54 years old and be like, I have got to get my life together. This young woman who's 21 years old just inspired me to get a grip. So what advice would you give people?
Get a grip.
Get a
Well,
grip.
there's never going to be a perfect time and you'll never know everything ever. You will never know everything. So if you're even curious at all, just order a Bible, talk to somebody that you know, whether it's a friend, a family member, anybody who can you can be there together and figure this out on your walk because it's not going to be easy. But order a Bible, get into community. But we need to be in the Word, especially today. If you were talking to young adults, you could be at college, you could be getting new jobs. It's really hard. But even whatever stage in life you're at, we need to be in the Word and we need to be guarding our hearts and our minds. And this all just comes down to knowing who Jesus is and just relying on the strength and the power of God and the fact that He's going to guide our steps and not me, which is so people could think that that's scary, not knowing exactly the direction it's going to go. But I think it's so comforting knowing that I am not the author and that I have literally no say. I am nothing without Jesus. And I'm totally fine knowing that because I don't want to be the one in charge. It's exhausting. So I would just say, going back to the practical first steps, get a Bible, talk to somebody, get into community. If you don't know where to start with the Gospels. Nobody is perfect. You do not have to be. Your walk will not be perfect, but you just have to start and get into the Word, and it will really change your life.
Okay, a couple more questions. Bailey, how can someone grow in faith without feeling like they have to be perfect? And you talked about how you're not perfect.
I'm so far.
I'm so far from perfect. Like every day I'm like, Jesus, I am a sinner. I judged. I did this. I'm like, I literally just got done praying and I sinned 4 times in the last 15 minutes.
We're very similar, which makes it kind of, sometimes we butt heads a lot. We both have extremely fiery personalities. We can get heated pretty
But
fast.
we're actually both very deeply sensitive.
We're both sensitive, but we're too similar that it leads to issues sometimes. So this is just.
But if we
we're
agreed,
not
we haven't
perfect.
had one issue since you're home.
Right. Well, are we gonna tell them that? Now that everybody knows. I don't know what my point was.
Maybe we'll delete that part.
No, I like it.
Okay, then leave it. Okay. So did we ask that question? How can someone grow in faith without feeling like they have to be perfect?
The perfect thing about this is that we are not called to be perfect by any means. We're just called to be disciples and to have faith. It is quite literally impossible for humans to be perfect, and we know this, and it says it everywhere in the Word. We all fall short of the glory of God every single day. I will never forget one time you told me that. You find that in Romans, we all fall short, and we will never be perfect, which is, for a perfectionist, that might be a little bit unsettling. But the only perfect person was Jesus, who was fully man, fully God. Of course, we know that. And He was sent to the cross and died so that we could live in our imperfect lives if we just have faith in Him. And that, to me, is extremely comforting because we will all, every single day, we do things that will fall short.
Every day, guys. So here's one of the things I want to be really vulnerable. You read throughout the Word that the road to heaven is very narrow. The road to heaven. So every time I personally do something, I'm like, I just fell off the road again. I just fell off the road again. So we're never going to be perfect. But the good thing is I confess my sins because Jesus died for our sins and I get myself back on that road.
It's narrow because it's so easy to fall into sin. But if we just believe in Jesus and who He is, then we're in.
I remind myself of that all the time.
Right.
Bailey, how has your life genuinely changed because of your faith?
If I look back to freshman year, I think that I'm genuinely terrified of the person. Like if I saw right now, if I saw freshman year me standing in front of me, I would be scared of who she was. Not just because, my mom is saying, wow, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but she knows, well, actually she doesn't know some things, but I would go out, I would literally get through the week. It would be Monday and I'm like, it's almost Friday. No, it wasn't, but I would be so excited to get through the week. Why? So that I can go out and act like, I don't want to say like an idiot because I wouldn't do anything too bad. But if I just look back to who I was freshman year, I was just so anxious. I was always looking for the next thing. I would go out. I would wake up the next morning never feeling satisfied, always feeling more empty, and just knowing that I needed something else. And I fully don't even recognize the person that I was. And I feel like I have so much peace and purpose that can only be explained through my relationship with Jesus. And it cannot be attributed to anything else, especially not me.
I'm actually learning so much on this podcast. I would have never, ever, ever.
It would be Monday morning or Tuesday morning, and I would be like, it's almost Friday. If I looked at even the way that I spoke, if I say, not to say, I'm not perfect by any means, like I keep saying, I have so many things that I still struggle with, but hearing videos and seeing videos of the way that I used to speak to myself, to my friends, I used to curse a lot. I cannot
Me
even
too.
believe. Yeah. I
Me too.
cannot.
I've gotten better.
You have gotten better. I'm proud
You
of you.
probably haven't heard me once this Christmas.
I thought you were going to say on this podcast, like, I hope not. But yes, I used to, my mouth used to be crazy, and I just cannot even imagine doing that today because it would feel so wrong and uncomfortable.
I used to blame it on the Italian in me because I'm 50% Italian. And that's what,
Like
if
a
you guys are
sailor.
Italians, you know this. You could we'd be happy. We'd be throwing out like it was an adjective.
Sometimes it just makes a story better, but
It does.
it does. Like, it adds emphasis, but I just
But
hadn't
we've gotten
realized that.
better.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question. What are you most grateful for in this season of your life?
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of things. Well, I would say probably friends and family who push me to be better, especially now seeing that kind of all of our family, I feel like, is coming to this point where we are all just so into our faith and it's starting to become a family thing. It's personal because we all are developing our own personal relationships, but then our whole family, I feel like, is moving in a similar direction. So I have Brooke and Scott, who just got married. They're great influences to look up to. I just love them so much. And they, of course, have been so inspiring to me. You and Dad going through all your things. I mean, I don't know if the podcast has heard about all that, but
No, they've heard.
but now the train is back together, and it's just,
And it's only God.
right. It's only explained, yeah, by Jesus bringing them back together, and that's the foundation. Tyler and Jamie now getting married, and they're building it on Jesus. And just my community in Tampa, I feel like I've been able to surround myself with such good people that I would feel comfortable having you hang out with again. And yeah, just where I'm at, the people I'm with. Let's not leave Ryan out. Ryan is so great. I love him so much.
Exactly. What would you say to someone listening who feels overwhelmed, lost, or searching right now? That's probably the most important question.
I think it's important, especially today.
I hope you guys are hanging on as listeners and realize this is so...
44?
You need to share this with everybody you know.
I mean, I was nervous at first, and now I feel like I can finally talk and be free. So just someone feeling lost, because I know exactly what that feels like because I was there. I keep talking about my freshman year, but I was truly there. We don't have time to go into one story, but I know exactly what it feels like. And if you're feeling lost, this is exactly what you need. Like, we need a savior, and you might not know him yet. You might not know anything about him, but just he knows you, and he knows every single detail about you before you even know him or you want to know him. He knows every single thing about you. He knows you by name, and he loves you. And it's so important that you just, if you're feeling lost or overwhelmed or searching or whatever you might be, the world will make you a lot of promises, and they will never satisfy. They will always leave you feeling more empty or more lost or searching and feel like there's no way out. But the only way to find life is through knowing Jesus. And that is the only way. He literally searches for the lost, and that is the only way back. I think it's important in today.
It's so important.
It took me so long to learn that and to not want to rely on myself and my own power and like my own, I don't know, knowledge when it comes to school or anything or relationships. But it's so important, literally just give it all up. And yeah.
We all can't wait to see the guy that Bailey ends up with.
I know, if there's anybody here with an eligible bachelor son.
She's been single. She has very, very high standards. Clearly, Jesus has to be the foundation of his life as well. Yeah, we're all dying to see.
All applications are open.
Right.
If you know anybody.
And if people want to follow you, she doesn't post very much.
I never post.
But if people want to follow you, where can they follow you? They might want to message you.
I don't even know what my Instagram handle is. Bailey Neal.
Well, if you follow me, Debbie_Neal, you can find my daughter, Bailey Neal, because some of you, if you want to reach out to her and send her a DM and you have questions about faith, well, also if you
know somebody, but
right, if you know somebody, of course,
you just want to talk.
But if you just want to talk and you have questions about your faith, she would be happy to answer. So thank you for being here today, Bailey. Thank you for serving so well, and literally glory to God for giving us just the foundation to even share this gifts. with all of you guys. Have the most amazing day. Love you, Bailey.
Love you.